In the suburban enclave of Maplewood, where manicured lawns and uniform fences defined the landscape, an unspoken tension began to brew. The protagonist, a spirited teenager named Alex, had always considered the community's rules restrictive rather than protective. After receiving a notice from the Homeowners Association alleging violations, like his tendency to park his bike close to the road and his colorful decorations for neighborhood block parties, he felt unjustly targeted. The letters, formal yet accusatory, laid bare their discontent, but to Alex, they seemed petty at best. As the HOA's grip tightened, they summoned complaints from other residents, amplifying the conflict and turning neighbors against one another. Fueled by frustration and a sense of injustice, Alex resolved to stand up for his rights. But what began as a personal squabble over seemingly trivial matters quickly escalated into an all-out battle with the HOA. Little did Alex know, this skirmish would soon involve law enforcement and public scrutiny, an unexpected twist that would thrust him into the spotlight. As tensions simmered just beneath the surface, it became clear that the stakes were about much more than just community rules. They were about freedom, fairness, and an unfolding legacy linked to his father's position as mayor. The Maplewood Homeowners Association, HOA, held considerable sway, established to preserve order and visual appeal within the neighborhood. Composed of elected residents, the HOA functioned under covenants intended to foster unity and protect property values. Their influence went beyond simple recommendations. They enforced regulations encompassing lawn care to exterior paint hues. Violations could result in monetary penalties, required adherence, or even lawsuits. Boasting a defined structure, the HOA held routine meetings where concerns were voiced and regulations discussed. They approached their responsibilities earnestly, adopting a strict policy regarding perceived disruptive conduct. Grievances regarding minor transgressions, such as Alex's bicycle placement or his decorative choices, were carefully recorded, escalating trivial matters into supposed challenges to community harmony. Their governance style verged on dictatorial, as residents felt compelled to conform or face consequences. The HOA saw itself as the ultimate protector of neighborhood standards, convinced that rigorous enforcement was essential for maintaining a perfect lifestyle. Yet, this inflexible supervision cultivated an environment of apprehension and animosity among certain residents, including Alex, who felt constrained by what he saw as overbearing control. Unbeknownst to all, this conflict would reveal the intricacies of community leadership and individual freedoms. Tensions reached a boiling point one fateful afternoon when the HOA convened an emergency meeting fueled by mounting complaints about Alex's so-called infractions. The mood in the room was electric, each member eager to assert their authority over the increasingly defiant teenager. In a shocking turn of events, amidst heated discussions, the HOA president made the decision to call law enforcement, a move that sent ripples of disbelief through the community. As sirens echoed through the normally tranquil streets of Maplewood, Alex felt a surge of indignation mixed with anxiety. To him, this felt less like a resolution to the conflict and more like an all-out assault on his personal freedom. The HOA had crossed a line, turning what once seemed like petty squabbles into a high-stakes showdown. When police arrived, they were met by an array of frustrated residents divided over the escalating issue. Officers approached Alex cautiously, caught in the crossfire between community regulation and individual rights. Faced with the visible authority of law enforcement beside the emblematic power of the HOA, it was clear that this confrontation heralded a new chapter in the struggle over control, highlighting deep divides within Maplewood itself. Alex's story wasn't merely youthful rebellion. It intertwined deeply with his family's Maplewood legacy. Son of the mayor, he bore a heritage of leadership and civic duty. His father, known for his approachable nature and dedication to community values, had spent years building trust through transparency and genuine connection. Yet, this very connection now felt like a burden. While Alex admired his father's public service, he also felt the pressure of expectations tied to their name. The mayor's influence cast a long shadow, making Alex a target of both admiration and scrutiny. During conflicts, neighbors murmured about privilege and potential favoritism, questioning whether his father's position would shield him from consequences when disagreements arose. As the HOA conflict escalated, Whispers of favoritism intensified. Would his father intervene, or would such action be perceived as an abuse of power? This tension added complexity, forcing Alex to navigate HOA rules and the intricate dynamics of his family's standing. In a town governed by regulations, how could he assert himself while bearing the weight of his lineage? The conflict became a crucible, testing not only his resolve, but also the strength of his family's reputation in Maplewood. He felt trapped between loyalty and the need to forge his own path, a path increasingly diverging from the one laid out for him. The HOA's unexpected ban on Alex's access to public roads stirred a hornet's nest in Maplewood, igniting passionate discussions about individual liberties versus HOA power. Marketed as essential for community standards and safety, Alex perceived the restriction as a direct assault on his rights. Suddenly, the community's roads became contentious territory. Alex could no longer cycle to school or see friends at the park without facing consequences, disrupting his daily life. The seemingly random limitations sparked questions about property rights and whether the HOA had exceeded its authority. As neighbors voiced their disagreement, the focus shifted from Alex's alleged infractions to broader concerns about governance and independence within the community. Many residents questioned the necessity of such a severe measure, fearing it established a troubling precedent. Alex now had to contend not only with his personal limitations, but also with the far-reaching implications of community rules on individual freedoms, sparking a wider debate about the balance of power in Maplewood. As the news of the HOA's ban on Alex spread through Maplewood, reactions among residents varied dramatically, reflecting the deep divides within the community. Some neighbors, staunch supporters of the HOA's mission to maintain order, applauded the decision, believing it set a necessary precedent for keeping unruly behavior in check. They argued that rules existed for a reason, and adherence was vital to preserving the neighborhood's charm. Conversely, other residents, those who had grown weary of the HOA's stringent enforcement, viewed the ban as an overreach of power. They sympathized with Alex, recognizing the implications of stifling individual freedoms in favor of regulations. Conversations at coffee shops and playgrounds buzzed with concern about how far the HOA could push its authority. Many questioned whether it was appropriate for an association to dictate access to public roads, especially when it seemed personal against the backdrop of Alex's connection to the mayor. The mayor's involvement in the conflict complicated matters further. While some residents speculated that Alex might benefit from his father's position, others feared this could undermine the mayor's credibility if perceived as favoritism. As opinions clashed and tensions simmered, it became clear that this situation would not only shape Alex's future, but also redefine community dynamics in Maplewood for years to come. Frustration coursed through Alex as he navigated the fallout from the HOA's outrageous ban. The unfairness of being targeted because of petty rule violations gnawed at him, igniting a fierce determination to fight back against the overreach of authority. No longer willing to be a passive victim of circumstance, Alex began to strategize his next moves. He envisioned rallying support from sympathetic neighbors who shared his concerns about the HOA's heavy-handed tactics. Conversations in backyards and casual gatherings became opportunities for him to voice his frustrations and garner allies. Perhaps a petition to challenge the HOA's decision could sway public opinion and force the association to reconsider their stance. Equipped with the knowledge that he wasn't alone, Alex also contemplated leveraging his father's position as mayor, not to seek special treatment, but to advocate for fairness within the community governance structure. He envisioned attending town hall meetings, presenting his case not just as a disgruntled teenager, but as a representative of residents yearning for balance between rules and personal freedoms. With resolve strengthening by the day, Alex realized this conflict was about more than just public roads. It was about standing up for what he believed in and carving out a space for himself in a community that felt increasingly oppressive. As he prepared for confrontation, his heart raced with both anxiety and a newfound sense of empowerment. In the midst of turmoil, Alex made the pivotal decision to seek support from his father, the mayor. As he wrestled with his feelings of frustration and determination, he recognized that this family connection could serve as a powerful asset in confronting the HOA's oppressive actions. However, approaching his father was not without its complexities. The dynamic between them was steeped in expectations and pressures. Alex didn't want to be perceived as merely a privileged teenager using his father's position to escape consequences. He wanted to advocate for fairness and justice for himself and others who felt marginalized by the HOA's rules. When he finally mustered the courage to approach his dad, it was with a heartfelt plea for help, not just as the mayor's son, but as a concerned resident fighting for his rights. His father listened intently, weighing both the political implications and the personal stakes involved. This moment highlighted their bond, revealing a shared commitment to community welfare. Together, they discussed strategies for addressing the HOA's decision while considering how best to navigate the fine line between transparency and authority. It became clear that while family ties could provide leverage, it was Alex's voice that needed to be heard in the ongoing struggle for autonomy and fairness in Maplewood. The atmosphere at the next Homeowners Association meeting crackled with tension as residents gathered to voice their opinions about the controversial ban on Alex. The meeting room, once a space for casual discussions, had transformed into a battleground of viewpoints. As the HOA board presented their case for enforcing community rules, murmurs of dissent grew louder among attendees. Some residents expressed their support for the HOA's strict measures, emphasizing the need for unwavering adherence to regulations to preserve Maplewood's appeal. Yet, others passionately defended Alex, arguing that the line between governance and oppression had been crossed. Heated debates erupted, revealing fractured alliances among neighbors who had previously shared amicable relationships. In this charged environment, Alex found himself not only fighting for his rights, but also inadvertently catalyzing a larger movement within the community. Supporters rallied behind him, echoing sentiments of fairness and justice that transcended his individual circumstances. As voices rose and fists pounded on tables, it became evident that this conflict was galvanizing citizens to reconsider their roles within the HOA framework. While some former allies distancing themselves aligned with the HOA's rigid stance, others united around Alex's cause. With each passing moment, the fabric of Maplewood was being rewoven, revealing both the fragility and strength of community ties in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges. As the conflict intensified, the legal implications surrounding the HOA's ban on Alex began to take center stage. Residents increasingly questioned the authority of the HOA to restrict access to public roads, raising critical concerns about the boundaries of private governance. In many jurisdictions, public roads are protected under local and state laws, designed to ensure free access for all citizens. This meant that the HOA's actions could potentially be challenged in court as an infringement on individual rights. Legal experts and residents alike began to examine the covenants and bylaws that governed their community. What authority did the HOA truly possess in enforcing such drastic measures? Would they face legal consequences for overstepping their bounds? These questions loomed large as community members pondered whether Alex's situation could set a precedent for other homeowners feeling oppressed by rigid regulations. With his father's experience as mayor, Alex explored potential legal avenues to contest the ban. He recognized that navigating this complicated landscape would require not only community support, but also a firm understanding of property rights and municipal law. The unfolding drama was no longer just about a teenager standing up to an association. It had evolved into a broader discussion about the balance between collective governance and individual liberties, highlighting how legal interpretations could shape their community's future. The pivotal moment in Alex's struggle against the HOA materialized during a heated community assembly. Amidst rising tensions, a usually reserved resident took the floor. With compelling articulation, they dissected the ramifications of the HOA's stance, asserting that the prohibition against Alex was not only punitive, but also inherently unfair. Their words struck a chord with many who had privately questioned the HOA's overzealous control. Emboldened by this display, more homeowners voiced their own experiences with restrictive rules. A significant change swept through the community as quiet support for Alex transformed into a unified demand for reform. This burgeoning solidarity signaled a turning point, establishing a shared sentiment that could no longer be dismissed. The collective discomfort was now a force to be reckoned with. Furthermore, legal professionals attending the meeting offered perspectives on property rights and HOA bylaws. reinforcing the argument that public road access should not be dictated by a private organization. As community members rallied behind Alex, a tangible shift occurred, undermining the HOA's power and emphasizing the importance of accountability and justice. This groundswell of opposition forced a reassessment of the HOA's position. Fueled by growing community backing and reinforced by legal considerations, the HOA, once seemingly invincible, began to weaken. This opened avenues for potential negotiation and a restructuring of the community's governing framework, promising a more equitable future. In the wake of rising tensions and shifting public opinion, the community began exploring various resolution strategies aimed at bridging the divide between Alex and the HOA. Influenced by his father's position as mayor, Alex facilitated discussions that encouraged cooperation rather than conflict. The goal was clear: find common ground while addressing the underlying issues surrounding governance and individual rights. During town meetings, residents proposed a series of actionable solutions. Some suggested revisiting the HOA's bylaws to ensure they aligned with current community values, allowing for greater flexibility in rule enforcement. Others advocated for establishing a committee composed of diverse voices, both HOA members and other residents, to oversee neighborhood regulations and ensure fair treatment for all. As the dialogue progressed, Alex's father played a key role as a mediator, promoting open lines of communication between parties. His presence helped reassure residents skeptical of favoritism, emphasizing that fairness should be paramount in any agreement. Ultimately, these collaborative efforts led to a framework for compromise, a new set of guidelines that recognized both community standards and personal freedoms. The resolution was not only a victory for Alex, but also marked a turning point for Maplewood, fostering a renewed sense of unity and shared responsibility among residents. With each step toward agreement, the community embraced the possibility of a more inclusive governance model. The conflict between Alex and the HOA cast a profound shadow over relationships within the community, reshaping dynamics in unexpected ways. As frustrations mounted, long-standing friendships were tested, with neighbors taking sides in the escalating battle. Supporters of the HOA distanced themselves from those who rallied behind Alex, creating rifts that transformed casual acquaintances into bitter rivals. For Alex, the strain extended beyond community ties. It seeped into his relationship with his father. The mayor faced immense pressure as he tried to navigate the role of both a supportive parent and a public official dealing with an increasingly divided constituency. While Alex sought his father's guidance, he also grappled with feelings of inadequacy, fearing his actions might reflect poorly on their family name. Amidst this turbulence, some HOA members began to question their own positions, realizing that strict adherence to regulations could alienate their neighbors. Conversations once filled with camaraderie now brimmed with uncertainty as alliances shifted and old trust wavered. The stakes felt personal for everyone involved, whether it was about protecting community values or advocating for individual rights. Each decision held the power to redefine relationships forever. Through these trials, it became clear that the path to resolution would require healing as much as it demanded action. The climax of the confrontation arrived with palpable tension at a critical community meeting, where both the HOA and Alex stood ready to stake their claims. Residents filled the hall, buzzing with anticipation as emotions ran high. The stakes were clear. On one side stood the HOA, determined to maintain their authority and uphold community standards, while on the other stood Alex, fueled by a growing coalition of residents demanding accountability and fairness. As the meeting commenced, the HOA president laid out their case, asserting that Alex's behavior was a threat to public order. But Alex, bolstered by newfound support, rose to present not just his argument, but the voices of many who felt oppressed by the HOA's rigid rules. He passionately articulated how their actions had infringed upon personal freedoms and community spirit. The air crackled with emotion as allies rallied behind him, echoing his sentiments and sharing testimonies of their own struggles against the HOA's governance. Local authorities watched closely, aware that public sentiment was shifting. As accusations flew and voices rose, it became clear this confrontation would serve as a defining moment for Maplewood, a crossroads that could either reinforce or dismantle the power wielded by the HOA. In those critical moments, the future of both Alex and his community hung in the balance. In the aftermath of the conflict, Maplewood emerged transformed. The confrontation at the community meeting marked a pivotal moment that led to significant changes in both governance and resident engagement. With overwhelming support behind him, Alex's challenge against the HOA catalyzed a movement that encouraged residents to unite for common causes, reinforcing the idea that community voices matter. Through arduous discussions and negotiations, new guidelines were established to create an equitable balance between HOA regulations and individual freedoms. The formation of a diverse oversight committee ensured that residents had a say in governance moving forward, fostering a sense of collective responsibility and inclusivity. The lessons learned were profound. Personal agency can indeed reshape power dynamics within a community. Alex discovered that standing up for one's beliefs not only strengthens character, but also inspires others to participate actively in their governance. His relationship with his father deepened as they forged a new understanding of their roles in the community, one defined not by privilege, but by accountability and fairness. As tensions eased and friendships were mended, the spirit of unity prevailed. Maplewood became a model for collaborative living, where residents recognized their shared stakes in shaping their neighborhood, a testament to the strength found in standing together for change.